Wilson, the Green Party MLA for North Down.
Brian, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing education in Northern Ireland at the moment?
Well, obviously the whole situation relating to the 11 plus, but I mean, as far as the fundamental structure of Northern Ireland education is the number of young people who leave school without any qualifications. I think that is a very serious problem.
And what way do you think we could address that?
Well, obviously the present structure, the 11 plus, there's too many children who actually fail 11 plus, become failures, give up the education, and particularly among the Protestant working class. I mean, and the boys, and particularly locally, I know of an awful lot of young Protestants who have actually sort of given up on the whole system of education, and really, I despair for their future. We really need to do something about it. And I think, obviously, getting rid of the 11 plus would be one of the things I think is important.
Well, schools in the education system be working in the context of restricted budgets, like so much of the public sector, over the next 4 years at least. And what do you think is the best way to manage the financial situation for education?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm on the board of governors of 2 schools, and we've had to look at our budgets. It's very difficult to see. I mean, there's still a lot of uncertainty exactly how much we're going to have, and I think, I mean, obviously one of the things, we were approved a new school about 4 years ago, and it was due to start last year, and because of the funding, this school is no longer going to, it's on the very long finger. I don't see it within the next 5 years. And I mean, that school was essential. It was identified as there were major problems and had to be built to give the children up-to-date facilities. And I think, I just don't know. I mean, I think I'm a bit concerned about moving money from the capital expenditure to the revenue expenditure. I think that's short-sighted to some extent. But I think we've just got to perhaps try to be more efficient and more with the way we use money. But I mean, there's a major problem, as far as I can see, with young teachers coming out. There are no jobs. I mean, I know quite a number of teachers have left training college, and they see no prospects. They've gone into shopkeeping, or sales assistant, that sort of thing, and they will not be getting the teaching practice, and I just don't know what's going to happen to them. I mean, it's a very sad situation.
How big a contribution do you think shared and integrated education could make to a cohesive and peaceful society here?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this is fundamental to the society. I've always supported integrated education. In fact, I was involved in a group which actually we were trying to set up an integrated school in Bangor. Strangford has now been set up to replace it, but I perhaps gave it up to some extent and had other interests. So, after my children went into secondary school and then lost interest. But certainly at that time, we were trying to set up an integrated school in Bangor, which is an ideal place because obviously there was a very significant demand for integrated education. But my whole philosophy, the shared future, I think it is fundamental to actually get all children from all communities working together. But quite interesting, I'm in the board of governors in Columbanus Catholic School, maintained school in Bangor, and in fact the pupils are something about 50-50, 50% from the Protestant and 50% from the Catholic. And I mean, it is very successful, and it is integrated in all sense, except it is not. It is run by the maintained sector, but the children get along very well together, and it is an ideal school. But it is unique, I would suggest, in Northern Ireland.
What do you think about funding schools which represent a single faith ethos? Do you think maybe the public funding should be dependent on them actually demonstrating that they're welcoming to pupils of all faiths and none?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, obviously, when you start up, you may have an imbalance But I think you should, for an integrated school to achieve full funding, it should actually be have to reach certain targets. But obviously you have a situation in particular areas where you have an overwhelming population of one denomination against another, a smaller, much smaller number of another. It's very difficult to reach those targets, but I think, I mean, we had a situation for a few years ago where schools actually maybe, I think all Protestant schools were actually in threat of closing down, so they decided to become integrated. I mean, I think this is totally using the totally wrong, basically, because you have to have the ethos, and that was the main drive between that school, was to maintain its existence rather than create, bring people together, bring children together, and the learning experience of sharing.
But beyond the integrated sector, do you think it's right to keep funding schools which are not demonstrably open and welcoming to all sectors of society?
I find this very difficult. I mean, I think you've got, I mean, given the structure of education here, the traditions, I think you really, yeah, ideally, obviously, you would want to have integrated schools, but I can't see how you can change the funding when there's actually the infrastructure is there. I mean, one issue, perhaps, of what you're saying is perhaps if the Muslims want to set up a school, how would we deal with the funding of that particular school? I'm not sure, but you have a situation at the present time. I think the situation should evolve. I think our schools should become more sharing and integrated in that sense as well. And perhaps the management of those schools then perhaps changes in the longer term. But I mean, you cannot change the existing structure overnight.
Okay. As we approach Assembly elections, how important is it to the Green Party that so many surveys have shown that a majority of people here actually do want more integrated schools? Yeah,
well, I mean, I think it's very important. I mean, it's part of our philosophy, basically, that we should have integrated schools. We should shared future. We should have people working together, inclusiveness, and bringing in not perhaps minorities of all descriptions, and people who are coming to the Northern Ireland, trying to integrate as much into the schools as possible. I think it's very important, and we encourage diversity in all forms.
Brian, finally, can I ask you, what's the strongest memory you have from your own school days?
Well, reasonably happy days, but I went to a single-sex boys' grammar school. Perhaps I felt that there was something missing out. Certainly I would support co-education, and I feel that's quite important. But on the whole, I mean, I feel I was educated, and I got a good education, so I can't complain too much.